Welcome back. Now, Ehibam Griefshare Foundation is a friendly, caring group of people that provides a compassionate forum that offers support to those in bereavement. They work with you through the healing process, offering a helping hand through your challenging journey towards a new normal life. Well, to help us explain what Ehibam Griefshare Foundation is about, we have the Vice Chair, Ehibam Grief Foundation, Chief Mrs. Shade Ogumbi. Thank you for coming. Mrs. Tony Adekoya, Secretary, Ehibam Griefshare Foundation, is here as well. Thank you. And Pastor Dukbe Irele, Visionary, Ehibam Griefshare Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with you, the Visionary. What gave birth to Ehibam Griefshare Foundation?
Thank you. In 2015, precisely 10th of June, my only child, my son, passed on at 35. He was living in England, and it was indeed a harrowing experience because it was a sudden thing. He wasn't ill, but apparently had pulmonary embolism, I mean blood clot to the lungs, and so just off. So it was a harrowing experience for me, and I spent the following 6 months really groping in the dark and asking myself questions because he was my only child. And it was actually during that period, after I had quarreled with God, you know, that happens to you and it's God that you attack first. After I'd asked questions that I never got any responses to, that I then got this leading. One fine day, I woke up, I was in the US, because after the funeral in London in July, I just decided not to come back home. And I got the leading to now reach out to people like you. And then I asked myself, who are the people like me? Is it people who have just one child? Or is it people who are in bereavement, like me, you know? And then I went into prayers to ask God, what do I do? And that's what gave birth to the foundation. The foundation came about because you couldn't really, I asked, do I go knocking doors and reaching out to people I get to know who are bereaved? But then I realized I must have a structure in place. And by the time I shared the vision with so many people around me, we then launched the foundation on the 1st of December 2016.
Chief Mrs. Ogumbi, tell us how since it was launched, how has it been running the foundation?
It's been very good. She's been the one doing all the counseling and talking to people. We already have a center in Victoria Island where people can come. It just opened also, where people can come and talk to her one-on-one. And she's already planning to go through counseling. What do you call it? Was it counseling? We call it counseling. No, yes. Like a counseling.
Counseling.
Yes, counseling. Yes. So that she will get to train. She will be trained, and then come to train other people who will assist. And it's taken off, you know, nicely. And people have been calling to, sharing, their own grief with her, and she's been reaching out to people. And it's interesting that people will remember that this kind of thing exists and call her up and say, listen, somebody just lost someone and she needs to be talked to. And then she will go up there and talk. But I haven't been called to do that. I don't know whether she has, but she has been doing it.
Well, I'm the secretary to the foundation, so a lot of the reach out that I have has been from volunteers because it's a volunteer-based foundation. Okay. We realize that it's not something that we can do on our own. It's our focus is nationwide. The foundation has come to fill in a gap really because she found as well that in Nigeria when you have something like this happen, there is really no gathering outside of, even in churches, yes, maybe at the initial stages, but there is nowhere where you can go to air out your grief, where you can go to sit with people who have gone through it with you. There's a tendency, and I mean, I recognize that with Pastor Release, that there's a tendency to feel alone, because even the sympathizers, they can empathize, but they cannot actually identify fully what you're feeling. So it's structured in a way where you have it's a gathering of people who are feeling the same thing. We found also that there's a lot of depression. People are going through depression in the society. Some from grief that they have suffered from years ago, and Nigerians, we have a tendency to have this get over it. Come on, get over it.
Move on.
You know, you are not the only one. So just get over it. And so it's my reach out, like I said, is with the volunteers who are coming to say we would like.
Let me come back to Pastor Dukwe. How does one overcome grief? That's one. And then there's some people who don't know how to, should I say, empathize? What to say to somebody who is going through grief? Am I going to come and sit down and just be saying, sorry? You know, what do I say when I get there? All those questions are playing on our minds.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I think there's also a cultural problem here, that you don't even say the correct thing to the person in grief.
Exactly.
You don't. Because people will come to you and say, oh, it's okay, you'll get over it, you have to move on.
I know how you feel.
And I know how you feel. And I say, you don't. You know, initially, I would say, no, you don't. Have you lost an only child? A grown-up, a soulmate, a 35-year-old? You know, I would answer back. But after a while, I would tell myself, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're talking about.
And Father, forgive me.
You know, but later I thought, okay, because my emotions were raw at the onset, I you know, reacted sharply, but later, you know, I could then understand. So you never overcome grief, especially the loss of a child, the loss of a loved one, a husband, a spouse. You never overcome it. The pain, the intensity of the pain gets better with time. I have met an 80-something-year-old lady who said after 33 years of losing, I'm sure you know the daughter, of losing a daughter, she still, at times in the house, will feel the presence of the child. 33 years, and she will just break down. So it's not something that goes away. It's something that lives with you. And when, you know, and when people come to you and they tell you, pack up all these pictures, you know, the heart is, you know, that strong. Your heart is not that strong. Just looking at people come to your house and say, why do you have all this? You have like a gallery now. Pack up all the pictures so that you don't. I don't even bother. I don't ask them because it's my house. You know, because the person grieving is unique to that person. The grief is unique to that person. You don't get two people grieve the same way. And that is why even in a home, the husband grieves in a certain way, the wife grieves in a certain way. One will think one is overdoing it, whereas it's not overdoing it. We are all different. We have our own way of expressing our emotions. And it is a mixed emotions that you get through in the first 9 months. In fact, I tell people now, the second year is more difficult for me. Can you believe it? First year, I talked about my son all the time. But this second year, it's here.
So how does one get in touch with the Ehibam Foundation?
Well, the foundation, we have we have a couple of centers that have already been opened. We've opened a center at in VI, plot 190 Gideoki Street, off Sinaida Anijo. We have one in Sulere, 4 Basi Ogamba Street, off Adenro Musaya, and we also have one in Yaba, 6 Dapo Bode Thomas Street, off Thobon. But what you can do just to get all the information will be to go on the website. We have a website. It's www.ehibamfoundation.org. So all the information is there, both for those who are in bereavement, those who need counseling, as well as those who want to volunteer or just to find out any information about the foundation.
Okay. we have to go now, but want to thank you for coming around, and we wish Ehibam Foundation well. If you want to support, you want to volunteer, the address will come up on the screen again for support, for volunteer, or you're bereaved in any way. Ehibam Foundation is there for you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very
Pastor
much.
Mrs. Dukwe Irele, Visioner, Mrs. Tony Adekoya, Secretary, and Chief Mrs. Shade Ogumbi, Vice Chair, Ehibam Griefshare Foundation. Thank you all for sharing.
Thank you for having us.
We're back shortly. Please don't go away.